So we've been talking a lot about you and your use cases. So you're one person in the org. Um, so let's move into like imagining the space that we've just made possible, that you've been asking for,
Yeah.
which is you sharing it with other folks in your org
Mhm.
via a link. And what does that unlock? What does that look like?
So today, it is possible for everyone we've given access to an Armory to log in and chat and ask their own questions about the content. But the reality of the matter is everyone's busy. I'm busy. You have to think of a question you want to ask. You have to go in and ask. The next stage in our journey is going to be, how do we get it so that Storytell pushes insights, pulls people into it? How do we get it so that you don't have to think, I need to ask Storytell to do X after common tasks, but instead, um, every time a new customer meeting happens, Storytell auto summarizes and posts those action items. How do we do it so that anytime an interesting and inspiring quote is said, the people who care about that automatically hear? And doing that means the user no longer needs to think to ask the question, nor does the user need to think of what's the right question to ask. Storytell is able to tell them, hey, you should ask this question. Here's the answer. They can see the answer, and hey, if they've got follow-up questions, they click the link, it goes to Storytell, they ask the follow-up questions. And suddenly you've just changed the flow from, I have customer data. At some point in my day-to-day life, I need to go and figure out how that customer data can help me, to, we've built processes and tooling as a company where our customer data is automatically pushing insights to the decision makers who are trying to action it. And they are always being prompted with, if you do this, it's going to help. And anytime they want to know more, they can easily go and do it. That's a fundamentally different working process than I think I've ever seen at any company. And the reality of the matter is, if you go back in time a few years ago, there was no tool that could support that. Now there is.
I mean, what I hear you saying is, with this customer data, it's, something I relate to as well in my role, is that you are holding on to this gold mine with all the conversations that you're having with customers. And yet the time for that processing, like, just isn't there. And folks, even if it is there, folks don't go
Yeah.
and reach into it. And so this is unlocking the gold
Yeah.
mine and getting it to the people who need to
Yeah.
know about it, just the information
Yeah.
they need to know when they need to know. So it's like operating this higher level of push that kind of push
Yeah.
the company forward.
Well, I think it also goes honestly even beyond that. It's like, if you think about like a recording of a customer call,
Mm-hmm.
who has that? The person who recorded like the Zoom call and the people at your company who asked for that recording. And the reality of the matter is, even if you're like putting those Zoom recordings on like, a Notion page, 9 times out of 10, no one ever watches them. So like, it might be there, but it's not, even if it's there and even if you could access it, no one's going to. How do you get it so that suddenly everyone has access to that content in a easy, accessible way?
Mm.
And, if someone wants to pitch an idea for a product, like, it's really easy to go and come up with an idea and go, hey, we could do X. It's a lot harder to connect that to a customer pain. Now imagine if you've got an idea and you can go ask the question, hey, has any customer ever brought up topic X, Y, and Z? And you suddenly get an answer when it's something no one's been thinking about. That's huge.
Well, and it's huge and it brings all the signal to those conversations internally. Like, what if you couldn't have those conversations internally unless you had queried the customer data? So it's not just pie in the sky, but like, hey, here's my proposal. And this is where these are all the customers who have that pain point that matches up.